I am so excited to be here on your broadcast tonight, and you are absolutely right, my friend. I know you are out there in Delaware. You know what? I told people that your show is so hot and so popular that they have to come into the hard talk with Jakim. There you go. If they talking soft, they can't be on this show. Oh, listen, Belinda, me and you both talk heavy. When people see us, they say, boy, them two, they talk heavy. Yes, indeed. So I just want to tell people right now who we are here in Louisiana. But before I do that, J. Kim, I think that if they're screaming live with us on Facebook, they need to go and tell everybody they know. Just start calling and texting and messaging and Facebook all your friends, your neighbors, your family, everybody to tune into the show because we're going to talk about some hard talk, something heavy, some hot topics here tonight that the whole world needs to know about. You are absolutely right, Belinda. And without further ado, I want to bring in Mr. Randolph Franklin. Mr. Randolph Franklin, give a shout out to the people out there.
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Ms. Parker Brown, Lynn Parker Brown, for inviting me to come on with the Louisiana United. I know your show is one of the top shows out there, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak on it.
All right. Well, we want to all do well right now. I just went over to Facebook real quick. If you got any comments, if you want to chime in, remember this show, the Hard Talk is a two-way conversation. So we want y'all to chime in. It looks like we're trying to get one more guest in, but it looks like his device is not connected right now. When we get him in, then we're gonna get it started, and we're gonna see where we're gonna go from there. The first thing I want to talk about is the incident that happened in 2019, and I want you, Belinda, to give our viewers just a quick synopsis of what happened to our brother in 2019. Yes, thank you, J. Kim. I want to let the people. As all of them is talking about the Ronald Green murder. How this man was beat to death by the police on video. But what we're here to say today, that it took 2 years, Jakim.
Yes.
2 years.
Yes.
For them to release this explosive video.
Yes.
And it is critical on how they covered it up from the governor's office on down.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about why they covered it up. And we want you to show a clip from that video so that the world can see, what they wanted to cover up, what they wanted to conceal from the people.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that we find that is a common thread when we're dealing with this, remember, I'm 21 years of law enforcement in New York City, NYPD and NYDOC. So I actually retired from the New York City Department of Corrections, and I know what it is about how to police and how to police it right. Brother Randolph, before we get to you real quick, I'm just going to show this 1 minute of this clip. Check this, family, check out this clip. Well, let me just say that I only did a minute of that clip because the profanity that these police officers use, and I'm going to go to you, Brother Randolph. The profanity that they use, the death cries that you heard, that was death cries. If you don't understand that, then you've got no humanity. Brother Randolph, what do you say about that, brother?
Well, like you said, this is an execution that was reported by the police. Well, they became emotionally involved, and they actually beat Mr. Green to death. It shows that they were completely out of control. Even when their supervisors were there, they continued to beat Ronald Green until his breath went out of him. And they actually said it on tape that I beat him till he went limp. And it's horrible. I mean, when he tried to save himself by turning on his stomach in one of the videos, they took their foot and pushed him back down. And then you can see where he's leaning on the officer, he's leaning back, trying to get air. And the officer telling him, don't you effing lean on me. Take him back to the ground and beat him until he goes unconscious. And with their supervisors watching, they don't work. And then they knew he was dead at the scene because they refused to give him medical treatment. If you watch the video, he dies. Medical personnel checks his pulse to see if he's breathing. And she says he's not breathing. And she doesn't even help him, and the police doesn't help him. He's dying or he's dead right there.
Oh, wow.
Other professionals show up, and instead of them trying to resuscitate him or help him, they took 8 minutes, I timed it, trying to secure a dead man to the gurney. To take his hand, take that hand. No one offered him that on the ground. There is no medical waste from where they were trying to help him at all. No gloves, no nothing. They just put him on the gurney and drove him away dead. And then they decided, the supervisors, the police chief, they decided to cover up this murder and say that Mr. Green hit a tree, which he didn't. I mean, all the damage done to his car from watching the videos was done from a failed pit maneuver, and Officer Cody ran into the front of his car. His car is actually in his car in the video. So, and they admit to it in the video that that officer caused the damage to Mr. Green's car. It's a straight cover-up of a murder that is done by the officers, their sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and their chief, and it went up to the governor's office.
Well, yes, brother, you gave us a great synopsis on that. We actually have Mr. Robert Burns on, and thank you. Welcome you to the Hard Talk with Jakim. And before we move on to Mr. Robert Burns, and I want you to understand we're gonna be going back and forth with a lot of particular things, right? Because Belinda's been on it with me, so we know how we flow. But one of the things that I see was that in 2019, people were coming down there, and they were helping y'all to try to get this to the governor. In 2020, he decides to release, am I correct, Mr. Burns? He decides to release the footage in 2020, or was it 2021?
Well, only the family viewed footage approximately October, I believe, of 2020. I may be a little bit off on the time, but Miss Ronald Green's mother, Miss Mona, readily said that, and I thought that they had seen it all, but she had said that they only saw snippets. So I don't believe what everybody saw about 2 weeks ago was ever public, even in a private viewing. That's just my take on it. Supposedly they have now released everything. They say they have nothing else in their possession. Interestingly enough, though, one of the key videos came from the lieutenant. And he apparently held that video back until as recently as about 3 weeks ago. And his was the one that was most revealing because the vast majority of Dakota DeMoss's video, there was no audio. And so that's why, I put together a 48-minute video, and I gave priority to the segments where at least one trooper had audio on so that we could try to hear what was going on. But there's a lot of, well, the main character, Chris Hollingsworth, had a 43-minute gap. I believe I have that. I may be off a minute or two, but where his whole body camera was turned off in its entirety.
Yes.
Yeah. So to answer your question succinctly, though, I think there was a limited edition, if you will, that was allowed for the family and the attorneys to view late last year, and then this year, as I said, the video in everything they say they have. So I'll take them. I guess I'll have to take them at their word, even though, as Mr. Franklin says, it's clearly a cover up here. Clearly, I don't know that you can trust very much of anything they say, but they say that every bit of footage they have has now been made public.
Well, and thank you, Mr. Byrd. Let me just say this. We have the same thing going on, kind of similar, but it was gunshots with a young brother here that was Lamont Moses in Delaware. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they always do this thing where they let the family see it piecemeal, the videos. It's not so important to have the body cameras. Don't get me wrong, I love the body cameras. But it's more important that those body cameras are rolling at the time of the incident. And I know Louisiana International, Belinda, y'all been pushing for those body cameras to be on every time you have an incident. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Jakim. And more so than that, we want to make sure that all of our law enforcement have body cameras. That was something that we have pushed, and we have been fighting hard to make sure that the resources are there for our law enforcement to have body cameras, period. It's no reason why that, we're in the 21st century and all of this craziness that's going on with the police is there to protect the police as well as our residents and our citizens. The body cameras are a must because we will not tolerate the cover-up.
That is right. And usually, and like in everything else in your life, the crime is usually not as bad, but in this case it is. But the cover-up is even worse. Am I right or wrong, Mr. Randolph Franklin?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. This is a blatant cover-up of a murder. I mean, this is what I don't understand from the public. In the George Ford case, we're sending the other 3 officers to jail because they watched. In Louisiana, these sergeants, lieutenants, and captains and chiefs have not been arrested, and they participated. So the difference is they watched and they're going to jail. You participate in a murder, complicit in it, and you have not been arrested, or you have not lost your job, you have not been detained. Somehow we believe if a policeman has to go get another job, he's inconvenienced enough. He becomes a gypsy cop, and he runs around from precinct to precinct or state to state, and somehow people feel sorry for him when he's complicit in a murder. So I come from all the time, and body cams, here's the deal with body cams, and I ask everybody this one question, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to send myself to jail. But we are relying on body cameras, and we need them 100%. I agree with Ms. Brown 100%. We need them, but we need some punishment for them to turn it off. Because most coppers, there's no punishment. And I'm not going to send myself to jail, and most people are not going to send themselves to prison. So they will destroy those body cams, they will shut them off, they will hide the evidence like they did 2 years in this case. That's why we need everybody. You got a phone, you need to record every single interaction with the police yourself. Because there's no way in heck they should have been able to hide this video for 2 years. And we should never trust the police when they say they're giving you everything. Let's say it all.
You're absolutely right, brother. And here in Delaware, we're talking about the Mr. Lamont Moses, which is very similar because he was supposed to be in a stolen car, which was his car, was not the stuff. But this is important. The people who write the reports, the people who actually do the crime are the ones who write in the reports. And then they are also the ones who's releasing the body cam. So I'm going to go to you, Mr. Robert Burns. Well, other than I saw on the YouTube channel, and I watched the whole video, and I thank you for that, and I thank for whoever put it out there as well. I saw the pictures of our brother Lion. I think it was before he got anything done by the, if I got the Undertaker. Mm-hmm. And I saw his face. Mm-hmm. And it was horrifying. Can you elaborate on some of the injuries he sustained?
Well, I think it's basically all but certain that he endured blows to the head with a flashlight. And that probably played a very large role. Obviously, the other injuries were a result of repeated tasering or tasing. I've heard it used both, so I'm assuming either one is correct. And I think in the initial lawsuit, they say that the overdoing it, if you will, that's not a good word, but overkill with the tasing probably caused the heart to give out. And the lawsuit does name the manufacturer of the taser as well as a defendant. But you know, clearly, you heard it. You've seen the whole tape. You heard one trooper. You heard one trooper say, "We're not going to tase you anymore. We've tased you enough." Well, the reality is, they probably had already tased him too much, and it was probably beyond recovery at that point. But I don't think there's any question about blows to the head with the flashlight. And I would have to assume that was done by Chris Hollingsworth. He's the gentleman who turned his camera off for 43 minutes, because I'm sure you heard the little segment toward the end of the body cam I had where he said, and it was very clear, crystal clear, I beat the ever-living F out of him.
Oh, yes, he said that. Yes.
So.
Wow.
And there was so much profanity that was coming out of these trained professionals that it's embarrassing to me. And I got to be honest with you. The blunt force trauma that I saw was indicative of somebody beating an animal that you didn't like, mm-hmm. or an animal that was a pest. And I wouldn't do that to a dog. And I got to be honest with you. Belinda, I think we have something coming up there in Louisiana this week.
Absolutely, and this is what we're calling for. We're saying that the cover-up and the lies of Ronald Green's murder by the police is critical to the people here in the state of Louisiana. And we're calling for, that the police commission has silenced the people. They have basically been a smokescreen. They have covered this up. They have protected these individuals, and we're just not going to stand for it. So it's time for us as a people to let our voices be heard to these what I'm calling that, this is a commission that's supposedly appointed by the majority of the government, okay, these positions. And this commission, and I want Ronald to speak to the corruption that's on this commission. Robert Burns have put out extensive futures in his blog talk, Louisiana Sound Off, and he have exposed all of these corrupt people that have sat on this commission board, that have silenced the people, that is a smokescreen. And we're calling for this thing to be shut down immediately because it's a cover-up.
One of the things I would say, and thank you, we're getting a lot of stuff, and Sister Dr. Zena is chimed in as well. One of the things I will say is that this seems to be the common thread all over our country, and I would even say all over the world, the same type of cover-up, the same type of stuff not being addressed when our policing in the neighborhoods. And it doesn't really matter. If you feel when you hear this man moaning that you have no compassion, then you should be not be shown any compassion. Before we move on, y'all, I really want to play this 1 minute thing of Mr. Gary Chambers. I think it was 2019 or 2020. Is that correct, Belinda?
21.
Well, I'm just going to play a minute of it and listen to this real quick.
But we stood for these steps in October with Ms. Mona, Lee, and Ron asking for justice. And state troopers sitting in cars watching us politely ask that you give us justice. Right now there's 105 House members inside and 39 senators. They represent the people of this state and they fund the state police. There's a governor on the 4th floor named John Bell Edwards. That if this was his son or his daughter that got beat like a savage dog on the side of the road, that he would not have saw it fit for video to be concealed for 2 years. That if we want to be honest about the condition of Louisiana, it is our leadership that is failing us. And that too many of our black leaders that sit in this Capitol care too much about taking pictures with the governor rather than living and giving us justice in this state.
Well, listen, we've got the same thing over here. We've got a lot of Negro managers in Delaware, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in New York that seem to be Mr. Photo Ops. Always coming out for photo ops, but with things that are important in the community, you hear nothing. You hear nothing but silence. Now, Sister Belinda, I'm just going to go right back to Mr. Randolph. Mr. Randolph, do me a favor. I know we say it in Wilmington, Delaware, and Newcastle, we say ghetto puppets. Can you tell me about the Black Caucus down there or legislators that's supposed to be there for the Black cause?
If you're asking me, you are gonna have to defer this. I'm gonna defer this question for Louisiana because I'm out of California too, Mr. Linda.
Right. Okay. Well, Belinda can give it to us, right?
Well, this is the problem, that, this type of things it's all of, you follow the money, you find the corruption.
There you go.
This is what's happening. And this is what Mr. Burns have exposed in his blog talk that, featuring these people that are sitting on this Louisiana commission that have been appointed by the governor. And the reason why the governor, is like what Mr. Gary Chambers just said, what is going on? What's really going on? And Robert, would you speak to that? Would you speak to the fact that, we got corrupt people sitting on this commission that you have exposed that should not be on there, period?
I'm certainly willing to do that, and you're correct. And I've attended virtually every meeting for the last 4.5 years and have videotaped it. From the time I arrived, well, thank you. From the time I arrived, there was controversy about when you sit on the State Police Commission, you're supposed to be prohibited from making political contributions. The reality is 3 members were having to be removed as I showed up. And it has continued, and it's clear, in my opinion, and Ms. Belinda was correct, every position except one is appointed by the governor, and they're basically just puppets. And they weren't following the Constitution. For the appointments, you're supposed to get letters from 6 different college presidents. That wasn't being done. Now, I'm not going to blame that exclusively on John Bell Edwards. It was being done by Bobby Jindal before him, too. But nevertheless, it was just, and I'm just going to be blunt with you. When I first showed up, that entire, with the exception of one member who quickly resigned because he saw what was going on and said, I can't deal with this. And that was a huge loss when they lost him. But with the exception of that, the current colonel of state police, who was then Mike Edmondson, that's 2 colonels ago, he literally controlled it. I mean, every member up there, whatever he wanted, he got. And I don't know how to make it any simpler, because the whole body is controlled by the Louisiana State Troopers Association. And that body is not supposed to make political contributions either. However, I will tell you that they are presently suing the State Police Commission in order to be able to make political contributions. They did make them back in the governor's race. They got fined $5,000. You know, boy, that's really going to be a big hindrance, isn't it? But it's a political deal. It's that simple. Gary Chambers summed it up quite well as far as the legislature, and you could take the same words and take it over to the police commission, be even more applicable.
Oh, you can take those same words and bring them right here to Delaware. You can take those same words, bring them to New Jersey, because it's the same thing all over.
Before we move on, that's what I don't understand, especially about the politicians in Louisiana. This green with the videos is a no-brainer. It's a murder that is videotaped. I mean, for our politicians, there is no risk in coming out. This is a murder on tape that you have seen. Yet they have, besides for Congressman Green in Louisiana, the Congress, where are the local officials? I mean, this is not hard for them. You see the murder, you see the cover up. Yet where are they? I mean, I told Mr. Jakim, I get up and walk out of church when these
yes, you did.
I do. Because listen, I don't need you to show up when everything's okay and you want my vote. Listen, where were you? Where were you at these rallies? I mean, we gave you a no controversial brainer. The police murdered this man and it was covered up. Here's the video. Here's all the evidence. And yet they still have their head in the sand. They will not show up on something that this egregious that is right in front of them. Where are they? So if you're not here now, then I would tell them, don't come here later. And yes, I'm sorry, but I love black politicians. I'm happy we ascended to that height. But I'd rather vote for a white politician who gets something done than a black politician who just has a black face.
That is correct. And you're absolutely right. Me and Mr. Randall Franklin was talking about that earlier. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you here in Delaware as well is that I don't even call them the Delaware Black Caucus. I call them the Delaware Black Cowards. And the same way as I call it the cowards that's in congressional. Now, that doesn't mean that there ain't 2 or 3 of them that are very good, that would love to do the right thing. But the problem is, I got to go to the LGBTQ caucus to get things done because that caucus has no power, doesn't want to do anything, and I've been saying this for years. Like I said, I will get in line with whomever, and as long as they get in line with us. So I mean, in that one thing about it has to be the Black Caucus. It has to be but all of you black politicians, and a lot of them do watch the Hard Talk with Jakim, because they're always trying to see what they're surveillance. They're always trying to see what I'm going to talk about because they know I'm going to hit them in the head. If you're watching right now and you're still doing the same old thing and you're trying to get elected in 2022, and here's a clear case of somebody being murdered, and you don't want to stand up for us, we got to get you out of there and we got to call you out. Now in Delaware, they've actually protested in front of the Newcastle County police chief's house for Mr. Lamont Moses. They're going to go to the family and other people have gone to the house. They're not letting you get away with it. Those days are over. We've got video cameras, and I applaud you, Mr. Robert Burns, because when I started video cameraing, started bringing the video camera to county council and all that, you should see people, especially politicians, get all scared because they used to doing things behind the closed doors. Mm-hmm. And Absolutely. This is the new black media that we have. Now, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of us. The new black media which is a civics media, which means that we partner with everybody. Civic media is saying, you got to stand up. Now, I know y'all have something on June 10th. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And, Jakim, this incident took place back in May of 2019. It took over 2 years for this video. The video actually did not come out. I don't know. They say it leaked out. But nevertheless, the sad thing about it is that this was during an election. The governor knew about it. Everybody knew about it. It happened in May. The election was in November. No one is really talking about every single person that covered up this crime should be indicted. They should be indicted or arrested and put in jail.
They're part of conspiracy.
Absolutely. And that's what Louisiana United is saying. That we're not going to be dumbed down with these politicking and tricking and all this stuff going on. You know, this family is suffering. And you know, all of my condolences and my 100% sympathy go out to the Greens family.
Right. But the community stuff is true.
Green could have happened to any of us.
Right. And the community stuff is true. That is correct.
So I wanted, you know, if it wouldn't be for Robert Burns, that, you know, he works very closely with Louisiana United and attending these meetings and requesting public records requests and several things that, you know, he put in his blog talk to expose this type of situation that happened up under this Louisiana State Police Commission, because these officers, you know, 2 weeks after the Ronald Green beating, talk about that, Robert. 2 weeks after the Ronald Green beating, the same officers was involved in another incident.
Well, that's correct, and you make an excellent point, and there was another one in that same time frame. You're referencing Mr. Bowman, Aaron Bowman, and either one of these two gentlemen could have very easily been killed. They were lucky they weren't, and they've lived to talk about it. And also Mr. Harris, and there was recently a federal lawsuit filed in his case. And the same type of language that you referenced was also present in the Harris arrest. In fact, I don't know why, but they filed it into the public record, and that post that I did got an awful lot of traction because of the kind of verbiage that they had with him. And I'll just say one thing, and I know Miss Belinda, I think would better elaborate on it. There was a meeting that we had, a virtual meeting, a Zoom meeting, about 5 or 6 weeks ago of the Louisiana NAACP, and the guest speaker was Governor Edwards. And I found it very interesting that he went out of his way to say that, quote, me and Donna, that Donna's his wife, certainly realize that everyone must be concerned with the instances of police brutality that we hear about across the nation. And at that very night, the George Floyd jury was deliberating, but it was as if there's nothing going on in Louisiana. You know, I mean, worrying about things across the nation. What about in the own state of Louisiana? And I'll let Miss Belinda elaborate if she'd like, but that turned out to be a little bit of a disappointing meeting in terms of everything was kind of choreographed, in my opinion, and it was much more of a celebratory thing for Governor Edwards, and there were no hard questions, none. But I feel.
Let me just jump in real quick. That's one of the things that we talk about in the new civic media, is that yes, we hear the Breonna Taylors and we hear the George Floyds, and those are tragedies, tragedies. But you can't consider yourself an activist in your community if you can't even name any of the stuff that's going on in your own community. That's what I'm talking about, and you're hitting right on the head. And I think Brother Randolph was getting into a little bit of that as well. These tragedies are happening all over the country. And for us to even say, one is this one, and for the governor to go to an NAACP and act like he don't have his own thing here, even though it was on the same night of the George Floyd verdict, this shows how they're trying to dumb us down.
Oh, absolutely. Boy, those were perfect words.
Absolutely. And this is what the problem is here in Louisiana. You know, at the same time, the governor was putting up this smoke screen, and I call it some type of campaign meeting. You know, he was covering up the death of Ronald Green, the murder of Ronald Green. And also, the officers that committed that crime with Ronald Green was doing other crimes, were beating other people. So what he did was basically allow these rogue officers to continue. I want Ronald to speak. I want Randy to speak to that. You know, these officers never should have been allowed to continue
to be on the street.
You know,
Yes.
and the governor is responsible because he knew about this. He knew.
You can chime in, Brother Randolph.
Yeah, I'll tell people this, and I'll tell you, because the video showed that they were arrogant and had a no give a shit attitude. And
Yes.
this is why you want their supervised help. I mean, you commit a murder, and you call your supervisors out to the scene of a murder scene, and your supervisors help you cover up a murder, saying that you ran into a tree. So it emboldened you to go out to do the same thing all over again, because you know your supervisor, if you commit another murder, they will help you cover it up. And that's why I said the supervisors, the sergeant, we have to make sergeants, supervisors, lieutenants, and captains and chiefs risk their family livelihood for these rogue officers. So if your family livelihood for these rogue officers, go ahead and do it. And we should start in Louisiana by sending these, how many they were, to prison. Not send them get a new job. Show you that if you cover up misconduct from your foot soldiers, that you are going to jail with your foot soldiers.
Yes.
That's why I said that we want to send these two kids, two are just probationers in George Floyd. We're going to send them to jail for watching, and they didn't know what they were doing. But we will not send supervisors.
And
for covering up this crime.
That is absolutely right, brother. Brother Randolph, let me just say this, and I'm going to get right back to you, Brother Burns. Let me just say this. I got Steve Washington from Delaware is watching us right now, and got a couple other people, and I'm going to bring this back. Brother Burns, you almost touched on something that I was talking about earlier in a Zoom meeting today. Most of your stuff that you get that is supposed to be for public consumption, public comments, or public record, do you have to do any FOIA requests for it?
Oh, I do them all the time. I mean, I may as well have a patent on doing public records requests. And I will be blunt with you. State police fights me any way that they conceivably can. And I'll tell you, just recently, they said, you're not getting it, and I'm not going to mention who, but a entity with a larger following may have made a request, and they have a little more backing than I do in terms of going to court, and so suddenly we got it. But it's sometimes it's not easy at all. And I'd like to say one other thing about the politics. I know that I read in The Advocate, which is our major publication here, back in early February. By the way, these troopers got a good attorney, and they actually got a temporary restraining order blocking an administrative investigation into the matter. I'm not making that up.
Wow.
A judge signed a temporary restraining order with the intent to convert it to an injunction to block an administrative investigation into this. They said it wasn't timely. The previous colonel would have handled this. So at the time that article got published, I know I read where they said the discipline that would be applicable here would be out no later than February the 25th. Okay, I can remember that date. Now, as recently as week before last, both the Associated Press and our local paper said that Colonel Davis had indicated that he was going to terminate Dakota DeMoss, and possibly York as well. I'm trying to remember York's first name now, just anyway.
That's okay, Robert.
Every now and then I have a blank, but now here it is Monday. Now I did go on a 5-day vacation, but as you know, you can keep up with the news, pretty easily, and I know it would have been front page news if either one of them had been terminated. So I have a feeling that there's politics going on even as we speak about, well, is this going to violate the police officer's Bill of Rights? Do they have a valid claim that, hey, this thing was initiated too late? I don't know what's going on. All I know is every date we get told the discipline's going to be handed down turns out to be an illusion. So,
well,
There is no arrest.
right. Let me just go with that. And I know we got Dr. Zena here, and she's the lawyer, and she's the one that. But this has always been one of the ploys in our legal system, that you didn't file it in the timely manner, you didn't get those things. And one of the reasons why a lot of times people don't file things in a timely manner in the legal system is because they don't know about it, or that they didn't get the information in order to file it in a timely manner. It's all part of it's all part of keeping the status quo. And I agree with you 100% about FOIA requests. If it's public record, why do we have to do so many FOIA requests for things that are public record? And I was just in a county meeting less than an hour and a half ago, and here in Newcastle, Delaware, and well, it wasn't a county meeting, but it was a meeting with some council member. And this has been a problem all over our country when it comes to FOIA. Once we got FOIA in the 70s, I guess 70s, late 60s, I'm not sure. All you legal scholars out there, y'all know when it was. Then they made it difficult to get public documents, public records. And it should not be that. I know at one time we had a FOIA request here in Delaware that was going to cost us $10,000 to get the information that was a public record. And that's not how FOIA was supposed to be intended. That's not how that's supposed to be done, especially in these cases. What do you want to say, Sister Belinda?
You're absolutely right. And this is what our concern is. I really appreciate Robert's work with Louisiana United, and that he can get those requests. But the thing about it is that everything is compromised now. We cannot trust anything, so we have to go the extra mile to get what it is in order to prove. You see how they lied and said that this man ran into a tree. And the mother said that it just didn't add up. It just didn't smell right. If something wasn't right. And that's the only reason why she had to seek out help to hire an attorney to file a lawsuit in order to find out what really happened to her son. This is wrong. So, I wanted Robert to also speak to, before Randy comes back in, and weigh in on what are some of the things that we're asking for, that we're asking for the wrong things. But Robert, you put out a feature on the governor about how he was bragging about his family history in law enforcement.
That's correct. That is correct, and that doesn't draw a lot of attention either during a campaign or just when he's making public appearances. But the reality is, his whole family is law enforcement. His brother is a sheriff. I'm sorry. His father was a sheriff. His grandfather was a sheriff. His great-grandfather was a sheriff. So, and that is an extensive part of his family's background. And I can just tell you that John Bell Edwards is never, Never, going to do anything that will alienate the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. And the reality is, they have controlled state police as well as most other functions in the state when you get down to it. They are an unbelievably powerful association, and any politician who has gotten crossways with them has lived to regret it, because their career ends very quickly. And John Bell Edwards, given that his whole family is sheriffs, wouldn't have been inclined to alienate the Sheriff's Association anyway. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that we have so many problems in this state. And I don't know if the light bulb's ever going to go off, and that maybe candidates that are endorsed by the Louisiana Sheriff's Association maybe one day won't win. But I just know they have dominated Louisiana politics for a long time.
Well, let me chime in on there. And right now we have Mr. Mark Walters Jr. and Sister Sylvia Backerman and Lampton has chimed in. Thank you for joining us. Let me just say this. This happens across the country because in certain places, whether it be the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police is representing them as union bargainers or not. This happens across the country that in fact, in my own district, let me just say this, in my own district, 16th district here in Delaware, we elected a former cop to state office. Now, I did run against them, but understand this, and I have a law enforcement background. We're not the same. Believe you me. I was endorsed by every leftist organization out there endorsed me because they said, yeah, but he ain't the same as this guy. There's a reason why, because I believe that you can police right. You can police and serve the community. I have no doubt about it. I've seen it in 21 years. That if you came into my neighborhood or came into my area in the jail, you got to be correct. Muhammad didn't play that. Correctional officer Muhammad didn't play that. You couldn't go up here and beat anybody no, because I got kids and I got stuff and some of them were my family members. I'm going to tell you that. But that's because I had a particular style of policing that you give them what they're supposed to get. And you won't have no problems. 99.9 times you won't. That's the difference. We have elected officials that have ties to the police department that don't want to go against them because that's their whole backing. They don't have the community back that's not backing them. It's the money in the FOP or whatever. And Brother Randolph, I know you can speak to that out there in California.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone knows. I tell people all the time, and unions are powerful. But we have to let unions come out and say that they will represent murderers. So that's what I want them to say. I want them to come out and say, I want unions to come out and put their ass on the line for bad coppers. See, because I don't believe all coppers are bad. I'm like you. I did 30 years. I'm on the police side. We just got to get the bad apples out of policing. But and the governor has people living in his family background, and if he covered up this murder, then shame on him. Shame on their legacy if they were good coppers. Shame on what he did to cover up this murder. I would also like to say that murder has no statute of limitation. And that's for all the coppers that committed murder a long time ago. They can stand by too. Like our California DA is going back, old cop killings because murder has no statute of limitation. And all coppers should be wary of that. I don't care how long it's been. We were back in the 60s and got the Klan. We'll come back and get you.
Now, I do want Sister Belinda, even you, Brother Robert, and you're absolutely right, Brother Randolph. Talk about qualified immunity, qualified indemnity, whatever you call it in your region. Do y'all still have that down there in Louisiana as well?
Absolutely. It's all about how they want to protect and cover up for each other. But what we have to do, it's not about what they're going to do. It's about what we're going to do. We got to stop asking for the wrong things. And, I want, and that's what Louisiana United International is all about. We're here to expose this type of corruption, call these people out, get rid of them, okay? And then we want to put the right laws in place that would be that would protect the citizens and the residents of this state across the country. We got this thing right now, and Randy, I want you to speak to this. That the George Floyd, what is they calling that?
What they got going into Congress, the act or something like that.
Justice Act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy. Speak to that.
Well, I tell people all the time, some of those bills, I qualified immunity to get back at and we need to get rid of. It's made up, it's protect coppers when they commit crimes, and we need to get rid of that one first of all. But a lot of things that we're asking for, that they got in this bill, that we didn't even ask for the right things. Like I tell people, we gotta remember that the murder of George Floyd was convicted because they used his training record against him. All cops are trained, and the training is taxpayers funded. So there should be no confidentiality for your training record. I'm not asking for your personnel record. I'm asking for what we train you to do that you failed to do. See, I tell people all the time, what do you do with an officer who thinks that policy, procedure, and the law are for the stupid? How do you control that officer if everything you teach him is for the stupid? I tell people we give every officer power, and we hope that they can control that power. we put them in a circle, and we surround that circle with kryptonite, I told Ms. Brown. And that's laws, policies, and procedures. And we say, when you step out of that circle, we're going to use this kryptonite against you. So what we need is to get officers' training records whenever they come up in court. It should not be confidential. We should know how you're trained and that you ignored that training.
You're absolutely right, brother.
And
I'm going to read something before we go to you, Mr. Burns. I'm going to read something that Dr. Zena put here, that there is qualified immunity and then there's qualified immunity with the help of the courts. You're absolutely right, Mars. Yes, Maurice Mars was saying that you're absolutely right. There is qualified immunity and then there's qualified immunity. That's right. That the courts also go along with what's going on. We got to talk about the court part of it as well.
Absolutely. You know, in the case of in Tangible Hope Parish, the sheriff is John Bell, the governor's brother, and his and the sheriff's wife is a judge.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yes. No, I'm not. You can Google it.
Oh yeah.
well,
Okay.
Listen. That's. I mean, most of our stuff is a rigged system. We all know that. Everybody's getting shakedown, but that's a total rigged system. If you got judges, and police officers, what else, and state representatives, I guess. Wow, that's a rigged system.
well, and
Wow. Go ahead, Robert.
with regard to qualified immunity in the current legislative session that's about to wrap up in Louisiana, there was a bill to basically do away with qualified immunity, and that was going to be a tough sell. But as I mentioned earlier, if you can get the Louisiana Sheriff's Association behind something, you got a pretty good shot. Well, when they were offered going from $24 a day to $30 a day to house parish prisoners, they decided that, hey, we can go along with this. So it narrowly cleared the House by about a 58 to 47 margin. I may be off one or two. But when it got to the Senate and was going through Senate committee, even the power of the Sheriff's Association apparently wasn't enough because it got killed in committee. So we will continue to have qualified immunity. One police officer from Shreveport, who was with Shreveport, City Police, came down and testified and said, it's this simple. You do away with qualified immunity, I resign. He said the cost of insurance, and I know Miss Belinda has talked about to the police commission carrying insurance for those accidents. He said the premium would be through the roof. So he said no police officer could afford it, so he would quit. And
well, I will tell you this. I've been lucky when I was on. I've been retired for some time now. But if some of the bosses that I work for ever heard that, you would be out on your bond tomorrow, and there'd be somebody else replacing you in there. And let me just go back to a thing that Brother Randolph said. And Brother Randolph said right about the bad apples. But at this point in time, I'm not even believing that there's bad apples anymore, because it seems like the farm is poison. The land is poison. It ain't even bad apples.
And the hen house.
Yes, we've got a system when they are taught this, that they think that they can do that because this is what they're taught. And a lot of times, those, where it used to be a bad apple, maybe before, now it's just the culture. Now it's in the culture. It's the poison. The land has been poisoned. Well, I always say this, if you don't learn from the lessons, you're going to have to learn from your losses. And Brother Randolph picked up on this very early when we was in this conversation, that we got to start hitting them in the pockets. When they do dirt, you got to hit them in the pockets. What do you say about that, Brother Randolph?
I agree with you. And I say, we got to stop piecemealing it. We need to get to Congress and have passed put some more teeth into the More Justice Act, and we got to pass it nationwide. See, we need them to pass nationwide and get rid of senators that understand that this goes nationwide, and most of them are because they've never been in our situation, so how do they understand what we're talking about? So that's what we have to do there. There's tons of laws that we need. We also need a law that there's no statute of limitation for prosecutorial misconduct. You put somebody in jail for 30 years, we should be able to go back and get you 30 years later when you covered up a crime. You knew this man was innocent and you put him in jail. So we need that law passed too. So just like the child abuse law, we need one for prosecutorial misconduct for them and judges that you can criminally and civilly go after them too. There's a lot of things we need to put into this this justice package. We need a hosting and unhosting policy. How you got your gun out me on a misdemeanor? I mean on an infraction. I just ran a red light. I got guns pointed at me. There's a lot of things going on.
Yes.
And our politicians, especially our minority politicians who just want to title in a business card, we got to find them and we got to get rid of them like we got to get rid of bad police officers. We got to find them and we got to get rid of them. And
that's right.
Go up and then come in your face later. Now, I'll tell anybody, that's it. And for Mr. Green, we also have to remember, they didn't give us the information for Green. The tape was leaked.
That's right. That's right. And it's the same. It's the same thing around the country. So before we get out of here, we got another 10 minutes. I would just want to play two things back to back for all of y'all that were not here earlier. Let me play two things for you. First, I want to play Mr. Robert Green.
We stood on these steps in October with Ms. Mona, Lee, Ron, asking for justice. And state troopers sitting in cars watching us politely ask that you give us justice. Right now there's 105 House members inside and 39 senators. They represent the people of this state and they fund the state police. There's a governor on the 4th floor named John Bell Edwards. And if this was his son or his daughter that got beat like a savage dog on the side of the road, that he would not have saw it fit for video to be concealed for 2 years. That if we want to be honest about the condition of Louisiana, it is our leadership that is failing us. And that too many of our black leaders that sit in this Capitol care too much about taking pictures with the governor rather than living and giving us justice in this state.
Well, listen, before we get out of here, I want to give all of our great guests a final word to get out the word that's going on down in Louisiana, stuff that's going on this week, stuff that's going to be continuing because this is ongoing crime. The crime is not over because Brother Robert Green passed away. The crime is ongoing. The crime is happening now. The cover-up is a crime. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Robert Burns. Give me your final thoughts.
Well, I think you make an excellent point, and I think Miss Belinda's husband, he encouraged people to come out to the State Police Commission to get involved, and I would just echo her husband, Carl Brown. I would just echo the sentiments he made. If they don't hear from you, they're going to kind of think, well, it must not be that big of a deal. You know, I mean, so that would be my thought is, yes, make your voices known. Otherwise, at least part of the blame has to be laid with you. If you're just going to be complacent, I mean, that would be my final thought is, you know, come to these meetings, voice your sentiments, and let the commission members know that what's been happening is unacceptable and demand accountability because we're not getting very much, if any.
That's right. And Brother Randolph Franklin, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, like you still talking about that video. I want people to know that, you know, Mr. Green was being tuned up till he died. And every time you hear him go up, they are actually on the ground tuning him up. They are beating him. Every time you hear those loud, he's not there like whimpering. Every time you hear his tone go up, he's being tuned up. And for our politicians to watch that, and not come out and assist in this manner that is clear cut. I know they need their business card and they need that title of a congressman, but this is clear cut. And I tell everybody, I mean, you know, join organizations like yours, sir, and Ms. Brown, Louisiana United. I mean, we're asking for, what we need is, we're not political, but we need political influence to get laws changed. And we're asking people to come on. Just give us your email. Show them that you have 3 million followers, or 4 million followers, so we can bring that to a politician and get him to move in the direction of justice. I mean, you give it to Rite Aid or CVS or stores your email, please join and give it to us so we can help this cause out. Because like yourself, sir, and like Ms. Parker Brown, you're working really, really hard to get these changes made, but we need the audience help. Thank you.
Absolutely. Can I go ahead, Jakim? And we need 3 million followers. You know, members are powerful people. You know, if you're watching this show right now, just like Robert Burns just said, it is wrong for us to stand back on the sidelines and be silent. And if, you know, and then if we're doing that, then we're participating with the perpetrators. We're no better than them. So that's the reason why we're here with you today, Joe Kent. I can. Because we want to be on your show. We want our voices to be heard. You know, the governor appointed these corrupt Louisiana State Police Commission. And that's a waste of our taxpayers' money. The governor has tricked a lot of us. You know, our governor has betrayed the public's trust. He has violated his oath of office to protect us. It's nothing but a cover-up, people. We are not going to be dumbed down about this. So, you know, when it's a cover-up, and when I'm telling you that it could possibly be a historic thing where this is, you know, we seen this one, we seen the video of this one, but what about the ones that we haven't seen? You know, what about the people that this have happened to and they have not had the opportunity to be where we are today, right here on this show, talking about what happened to Ronald Green and showing this video? You know, the cops, you know, is corrupt. They're rogue officers, and there is still have not been an arrest. Something is wrong with that picture. You know, everybody that touched, that was there, the high-ranking officials, the captains, the lieutenants, the sergeants, all the way up to the governor's office and down, needs to be indicted. And I'm telling you, people, if we step back and let this go on as long as it has been going on, and we still want to be silent about it, it's something wrong with us. So I'm saying, let's make this a unified effort. Let's make this a movement where we all can stand together and unite and come and let our voices be heard on June the 10th. Okay, be there at 9 o'clock. Be on time. You know, and then you can also go to the Louisiana State Commission website at www.laspc.com. That's Louisiana, it's at www.laspc.com. You can go to that website and put in your comments. You can also sign up to have your voice to speak that day at the commission meeting. It's time, people. Don't stand by idly on the sidelines, because all you're doing is watching and helping us lose. We're winning. We're winning because we're not going to be silent. We're here today on this hard talk show.
That's right.
We are winning. Thank you so much, Jakim, for having us.
Yes.
And I want to see everybody join up with Louisiana United International, this powerful organization that is a force for justice. We need 3 million likes on this show right now.
There you go.
We need them to see that. We need the world to see that. Okay? So if it's happening in your community and you don't have this platform, we're telling you right now to join up with us. Okay?
That's right.
And become a force to be reckoned with, so that we can show them that we're not going to stand by and tolerate this type of treatment anymore. Not here in the United States of America.
That's right. Well, let me finish up with this, y'all. People of good conscience, if you're people of good conscience, I don't care who you are, what your sexual preference are, what color you are, race, what nationality. If you're a person of good conscience, I want you to understand this. And I want you to be, I'm going to be very clear, I'm going to look into the camera. Knowledge is not power if it's not applied. And you've got to apply pressure every day. And I want y'all to understand, this has been the Hard Talk with Jakim, and I don't do this by myself. I got a crew with me, I got a team with me. But let me tell you something. If you are not standing up for it, then you're standing with it. And I'm going to tell you, if you're standing with it, we see you. I don't care if you're a politician. I don't care if you're a Fortune 500 CEO. If we see you standing with them, then you're standing against us. You're standing against people of good conscience. I want everybody to know, don't bounce back. I want you to bounce forward. I want you to understand this. This has been the Hard Talk with Jakim. You can reach us at Delaware Info Now on YouTube or at The Real Jakim on Instagram or Twitter. Listen, I got to say goodbye to my guest, Mr. Randolph Franklin, Miss Belinda Parker Brown, and Mr. Robert Burns. Y'all been a fantastic guest. This has been our Louisiana edition of the Hard Talk with Jakim. I'm going to see you Friday because we're going to be talking about critical race theory, CRT, and that's coming to your curriculum, or maybe not. So again, this has been the Hard Talk with Jakim. I'll see ya.
Thank you, Jakim.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're demanding that the police stop beating our people to death.
All right. We are out. Thank you so much. Hey, did y'all enjoy that?